Hi, and welcome to CoverBrand, where we cover all things branding, marketing, and advertising to help you understand what the hell branding is and how it works to grow your business. Welcome and welcome back. Today, I've got Evante Daniels on the show. Hello, Evante.
Hey, Ethan, how are you?
I am good. It is a nice day. It's been raining a ton here in Boulder, which we need.
We could use some rain out here.
You're in San Fran?
Yeah. It's another crystal blue California day out here, honestly.
Oh, so sorry about that.
I know.
So sorry.
It's tough being in paradise.
Yes. Well, here you can't curse the rain in the desert, and Boulder is a high desert. Denver's a high desert. And it really helps to keep the wildfires down, which, of course, we all see the national news about wildfires these days. So that's good.
Oh, yeah. Absolutely.
And like bullshit, rain makes the flowers grow.
Amen.
Well, I am excited to talk to you about brand science, but first we have a very important topic to cover, which is cover songs.
Yes.
Tell me what you have.
So what I'm bringing today is the Kelly Clarkson cover of Billie Eilish's Happier Than Ever.
Oh, very nice.
Yeah,
okay.
Yeah.
Why that one? What does it do for you?
Oh my goodness. I mean, who doesn't love Kelly Clarkson's just like her vocal power? And, as much as I appreciate Billie Eilish as a songwriter, I'm a powerhouse. Like, I love to hear the force and the oomph behind the song. And so the lyrics are powerful, but having Kelly really deliver them in that like power ballad, early 2000s pop, screaming out the window kind of energy. It's
like a belter.
Oh yeah, absolutely. I want it loud. I want it proud. And Kelly does both of those on that song. Yeah,
Billie does it in one place on, I think, her entire album. And it's at that one point in the greatest, when she crescendos.
Yes. Yeah.
But otherwise, she's the whisper.
And I love the control. I'm impressed by it because I'm a belter, even when I sing. So I'm like, I don't know how the world you're whispering like that, but
Kelly
much
brings it.
Both of them. Yeah, she's got the heat.
Did you ever watch all of her? It wasn't Star Search? What was it? America's Got Talent? Whatever she was discovered on.
Oh no, she was on American Idol.
American Idol. Holy crap!
Yes,
forever ago. And
wow.
She had to do like 15 songs, and every single one of them, she just ripped it to shreds. Every goddamn one. And they kept making her sing more. And it was like, please, just give her the damn, trophy.
Well, I think like part of it was like, hey, can you do something without belting it? And she was like, why would I ever? Yes. And then she just decimated the competition.
Right. She could have sung my Funny Valentine and just belted the hell out of it.
Oh my goodness. Right.
Anyway, it's worth watching. It's all, of course, online. You can watch Kelly Clarkson's old American Idol stuff. But that cover, you're right. And it came just a year after the Billie Eilish version.
Yeah. And it was very quiet release. It's part of an album that I wish was much larger. That's called Kellyoke.
Great. Yeah.
I feel that if Kelly were to really, take these covers to the next level, she would drop one of these albums every now and then. And singers would get to the point where they'd be scared if Kelly was going to cover their song or not.
Yeah.
Very similar to when Lil Wayne used to rap on other people's beats, and you'd be terrified because you're like, I don't know, he's going to do better than me. How can he do better?
Right. Or going way back when Aretha covered your song, forget it. It became her song.
Oh, that was it. That was the done. Exactly.
Yeah. So Kelly's version.
Yes. And Kelly, if you're listening, that's what you should do in the next phase of your career.
Yeah. Just shred other people's songs.
Shred other people's music.
Happier Than Ever by Kelly Clarkson. Cue it up to listen to right after the show. There we go. Another cover down. Well done, Evante. Let's talk brand science.
Yeah.
So today we've got a different format than our usual show. Our usual show, we have a caller calls in, asks a question. I try and answer it. It's not quite Stump the Sage, but it's in that zone. But today it's called Shop Talk. And Shop Talk is when I've got someone else who also has a lot of experience with working with brand science and seeing the impact of brand science on their clients and on their clients' businesses. And we talk shop, and we talk about what it means to have a scientific approach to marketing, advertising, and branding. And I'm excited to have you on the show because you do this.
I do. Yes.
Tell us about it.
So I am the chief strategy officer at Seeker, which is an intelligence firm based out here in San Francisco.
How do you spell that?
Seequer. I know we had to change one letter to make it cool.
Yeah. Yeah. Well, it's like names. And it used to be black names were the crazy ones, Lashandel, Chautauqua. Now it's all white people's names.
Well, to be fair, that ramp has gone pretty high.
Benquin, Brinkley, Buxley, and you can never know how to spell. There's a coffee table book out there somewhere called 25 Ways to Spell Caitlin.
That's that or Kaylee.
Kaylee.
Oh my goodness. The amount
so anyway,
yeah.
How do you spell it again? Seequer?
Yes, that's right.
Okay.
And so you can learn. Yep, .co. You can learn more about us online at seeker.co. But yeah, we're an intelligence firm. What we do is we answer questions, which if you remember back in the day, there was Ask Jeeves, right? And that was like the cool search engine. You could really just throw an open-ended question into it. And it was like, hey, I can put these things together. We do that exact same thing, but through the lens of neuroscience and physics. And so we work with agencies, we work with strategists, we work with brand people who are asking these questions about markets, about clients, about what's happening today. And, where they used to have to guess, we help give them information on a quantifiable level that says, hey, this is how this trend happened. Here's how this business came to be.
Okay, step one, give us a concrete example of the trend that you've studied.
So, we're going to talk about Taylor Swift later on as a more example of what happens with culture. But a great trend that I like to focus on is what's happened with DEI over the last 5.5 years. Right. So while we're dealing with, a lot of people were having a heavy reaction. And of course, we lost a lot of funding this year from programs, and it's affected everything from creativity to HR to hiring to supply chains even. Right.
The impacts have been seismic.
It's been seismic. And so a lot of people are asking, well, where did this come from? Right? What happened that got us here?
I have theories, but I want to hear how Seeker approached it.
Yeah, absolutely. So the way we looked at it was we said, okay, well, what are the stakeholders that drive the conversation? Right? We believe that things happen by intent or by design. And sometimes both, right? So we're going to say, well, who could have kicked this domino that led to this avalanche down the hill? And so what we do is we take a look back through the pieces that were used or the pieces that were referred to. In this case, it was the ESG frameworks. And we say
ESG being
ethics, social, and governance. And so this is a corporate department or a corporate framework that became super popular for diversity, equity, and inclusion work because it allowed us to say, hey, there's financial impact when we treat people well, when we have good governance systems, when we have social impact focuses, and we can actually tie that back to ROI. And so this is a framework that's existed for years. And that's what we learned. We're like, oh, this came out in 2010.
So ESG, and was it ethics or was it environmental? I thought it was
it's environmental. It's environmental. Thank you.
So environmental, social, and governance, and those are rules or principles that companies adhere to try and show that they're upstanding corporate citizens. Right.
And so there's a translation that happens between DEI and ESG for those in those offices, where on the internal side, you may use ESG language, right? This environmental, social governance framework. But externally, the language we're used to is more diversity, equity, and inclusion.
Right.
And so, we see this framework and we're like, okay, it became really popular in the 2020s, like during COVID. Why? This thing has existed for 10 years before it became popular. So did it get discovered? And so at this point, we start looking at digital traffic. And we start seeing, well, where was it mentioned? And it starts being mentioned in news, institutional journals, right? So we're looking at, Financial Times, Wall Street Journal. We're looking at the Harvard Business Review. And we're like, okay, these guys are mentioning it a lot more. But that coincides with this other thing. And we're like, what and you continue to kind of do this investigative trail following these pieces. And what we came to find out is that Larry Fink, head of BlackRock, wrote a memo explaining a tactical shift to ESG in 2019. And if you're not familiar with BlackRock, they have a seismic investment in the American economy.
They are huge. And they're one of those enormous kind of stealth corporations.
Yes.
Yes.
That if you don't know who they are, you don't know who they are. They're very much a if you know kind of company, right?
Right.
So the head of this company drops a very innocent seeming memo, right? It looks like it comes from any other chief executive's desk who's saying, hey, I'm having thoughts, this is what I'm thinking. And in that, they made this shift from focusing on other frameworks to really prioritizing ESG. And Larry Fink mentions ESG in this memo.
Okay.
Right. So that's 2019. The world erupts in 2020. But as the world is erupting, BlackRock has 40%, if not more, investment throughout the American stock market. And so all of the companies that follow this dude's leadership investment now feel a push to focus on ESG.
Right. He is a big influencer. He might be a bigger influencer than Markiplier.
Right. Absolutely. PewDiePie back in his best days couldn't touch what Larry Fink can do.
Right. I love it. Larry Fink. It should be on his LinkedIn, right? The PewDiePie of major investors in America.
Mr. Beast has to look up to this guy at a certain point, right? Because what happens is, all of these programs start getting created. Your number one investor says, hey, I'm really interested in ESG. You would be a fool not to start diving into ESG.
Right. But he's not talking about it in terms of DEI.
No, he's talking about it in terms of financial profitability.
So right now you're just putting together the fact pattern, the thread, the network of mentions and influence. And you find out that Larry Fink is kind of the early patient zero of ESG spreading through the network. And then how does it turn to DEI?
So what we see is that because of the work with Black Lives Matter and the conversations that were happening during 2020, there was an unparalleled market demand for conversations from brands. And so what we have is a perfect scenario, right? And, this is where conspiracy theorists like to have a lot of fun because they say, well, how much of this was intentional? How much of it was not? But in 2019, if this thing happens where we switch to environmental, social, and governance, and by March, 3 months later, we're all in our houses watching Tiger King,
right?
Which means by the time of the Ukrainian incursion, we're seeing it live. By the time of George Floyd, we're all seeing it live.
Right.
So it leads to this unprecedented moral demand on digital media. So now companies have even more of a reason to dive deeper into this framework that their largest investor is saying, hey, do this.
That's when every company went from just having a brand purpose to having to have a statement about social and environmental justice issues.
Right. And it's not to say that DEI work or even ESG work was not happening before Larry Fink. It was. For sure. This was an uphill battle.
But it became corporate, is what
you're saying. It became extremely corporate and became highly systematized. Right? So this has been an uphill battle, like we were talking about before, for a very long time. People try to make companies do more ethical options and showing that leads to profitability.
Right.
So what we see here is that, okay, we're making speed, money's coming into these programs, investments happening, people are getting hired in DEI. And then we realize that, okay, so we have the Larry Fink situation, we have the environment that then allows it to cascade, which is the COVID bubble.
Yes.
Right. In there, we have the Great Resignation.
Yes.
Right. We have all of these hiring challenges and changes. We have supply chain changes. And the whole time, BlackRock maintains ESG.
Right. Hey, let me pause you there for 1 second because you said something I think that's really important for marketers to understand. And it comes from a little bit of my background as an evolutionary biologist, which is you said the conditions changed, the context changed. We often look for causality in the thing itself. What made DEI so explosive? What made Black Lives Matter so explosive, or defund the police? What was in the idea that made it so viral and spread? And often it's not the idea itself, it's the context.
Absolutely.
It's the situation because the stickiest idea in the world, the most viral idea in the world, won't spread if the context isn't right. And that's exactly how evolution works, right?
Yeah. Yeah.
That there are selective pressures on different genes, and those different environments are what kill off those that are poorly adapted and allow those that are better adapted to thrive. So the context was right, and that's that's quite a scientific approach to begin with.
Yeah.
And we're still not to the neuroscience,
No,
which
we're
I'm
not.
excited to get to. But that was an important piece.
Yes.
That instead of just saying, well, how do we make a viral video? It's very much about the context for virality, the situation, and what's up with the network and what's up with society.
And to that point, we start to see a very strong level, high level strategy that comes out from planning for context. Right. And so in a situation like BlackRock with data collection and Planeteer and groups like this, a lot of people go, the puppet masters, did they pull the string to make it happen? It's like, well, you don't have to pull the string to make it happen if you have a plan for the environment for when that storm happens.
Right.
And in that case, you go, oh, it's happening now. And then you grab the binder and you follow the plan.
Scenario planning.
Exactly what it is.
Scenario planning. And really large companies do it. And most of us are too time strapped and resource strapped to do it for our own selves.
Right. There's no way to juggle that on top of paying bills and taxes and managing clients. But when we look at situations that apply systemically, right, to a national state level, where this is actually even larger than that, but like this is a huge issue, it's a macro issue. Right. What we see is that context changes everything.
For sure.
And so then what we get into is a question. All right, which changes first afterwards? Now that the context has changed, this piece has been integrated. Okay, where's the deviation going to happen now? Is the context going to change again, or is the action going to change?
Right.
And what we saw was that the context continued, right? This what we call cultural volatility, the feeling of everything being pulled at the seams, right? That led to this demand to begin with.
Right.
But then we get to 2024 and we get another memo. And he kind of goes, I'm over ESG.
Okay, so Larry Fink himself is again patient zero with this concept because he is a major influencer. He's the Kim Kardashian of corporate dark money or investing or whatever you want to call it.
However you want to look at it. But he's there and he's
big bucks.
Very present. Big bucks.
Yes.
And so if he says, I'm kind of over it, it's like trying to get a kid to eat broccoli when they've decided it's not cool anymore. Right. There's no convincing him. He doesn't have anybody who should try to convince him because this is his role. This is what he does.
You don't speak from experience on that broccoli point.
It's just a little bit.
Sounds like a little bit.
But this is what happens. And so what do we see across companies and brands across the United States? We see a priority shift.
It cascades.
Right. The context hasn't changed.
Right. And that context being, let's just say pre-2020, people certainly we were online, certainly we were connected and networked. Certainly there was already polarity in politics, especially in DC and in state houses. But through the pandemic, that shifted the context because we became just a bit more focused on digital media. A bit more focused on daily news, a bit more focused on, oh crap, what's happening today?
And the priority in that mix got flattened.
Yeah. And it doesn't have to be a huge shift. We don't have to say, oh, it was a seismic shift from 2019 to 2020. And people before that didn't care about daily news. Bullshit. I hate when people overestimate the size of change. But they often overestimate what a little change can do.
Yeah.
Because
absolutely.
And I'm guessing this is where at least some of the physics comes in. What we've got is feedback loops.
Yes.
And so a little shift at the beginning can create an avalanche, right?
Absolutely.
A little bit of heat. I don't know if you've ever gone skiing in the backcountry.
No, I would love to, but I'm going to trust you on this one.
Yeah. So trust me on this. What happens if you go skiing in the backcountry, and of course the temperature changes and the snowpack changes and the snowfall changes, but you've got a gradual shift in temperatures. Rarely do you have, it doesn't go from 10 degrees to 35 degrees in 12 minutes. It does that over hours or over the course of several days. The gradual shift at some point hits a critical moment, and then there's a feedback loop, and then there's a cascade, and you get an avalanche.
Yep.
Okay?
That makes sense.
So gradual shifts and little changes can actually, in these complex networks we have, like societies and ecosystems and economies and media environments, can create oversized, amplified changes. So, right, let's say a 2% increase in people watching news every day can actually create a feedback loop to create a 20 or 30% shift in sentiment about something like DEI.
Absolutely. And if you combine that again with the context of that space of what actually happens on a digital platform, where, it's for any point fact, right? The New York Times Instagram profile is the exact same as my Instagram profile, just changed the amount of followers. Right. So now you've got a great equalizer in the mix of this, where it says, if you find it on YouTube, if you find it online, it's all coming from the same place.
Right.
And this is the same place that the conversations are happening, where the experts are leading or trying to lead. And that whole storm didn't just last for a few months. Right. And it continued on. And so as we've approached work, as we've approached social issues from there out, we've realized that there's this instantaneous connection on a higher level. Which definitely leads us into how we look at culture. And that's really the biggest shift that we saw from 2019 to 2020 was the most subtle shift in culture that could have possibly happened. But for marketers, for branders, for advertisers, this is what has drastically changed our space and our environment, because there are now so many factors that we're having to bring in that we weren't considering in 2019.
Right. Okay, so let's talk about the neuroscience piece and the way you measure or understand how these things impact people's bodies. What's the science you brought to the table? Because frankly, you could argue, some might argue, I'm sure your prospects have argued, hey, we get plenty of trend hunting and trend chasing and trend analysis organizations. What makes you different?
Well, our first answer is that those guys are usually guessing and we're not. And the reason we're not is because, one, we're applying that same investigative practice to any question that's being asked. So we're going to actually go back and see what started the trend, but we're also going to look at it from a human-centered perspective. Everything we do is based off of human factors, which is a design principle that says essentially design things according to how people interact with them. So when we look at a piece of media, when we look at a memo from Larry Fink, we're not just saying like, okay, this is what he wrote. We're looking at how the reporters took it. We're saying, how are business owners taking it? How are people who are Larry Fink fans taking it? How are people who don't know who Larry Fink are taking it, right? And looking at all of those different pieces and saying that that's forming a reality. So we start with, remember I said we were going to start with quantum physics, right? It's this base understanding that our interacting with the world makes it real. And our perspective as defined in how we interact with it on a singular level. What we see around us, from colors to shapes to sounds, are all based off of where we are in the moment, how these things are interacting with us. If someone is right next to you and they see the exact same thing as you, right? This is a very common thing. We do this all the time. When we point at something, we're like, oh, look at that. I don't think we understand how grand of a mystery that is. That
the act of noticing something,
and the act of seeing or perceiving something similar to someone next to you. And this has been a critical thing for humanity, like for us as
for sure,
species, right? Is the ability to do this. And what we've learned is that when we notice something, when we both lock into something and we see it the same way, our bodies start to synchronize.
Right.
Starting not in the mind, not with cognitive values and thoughts, but in our nervous systems, right? In our brain waves, in the way that we breathe, in the tension that we hold and where we hold it.
Yes.
And so go ahead.
Okay, just to bring this down for folks who might be wondering what the hell we're talking about. I think what you're saying, and I think I've had this experience, is here's an example. When you've ever sung in a group, whether it's around the campfire or in a band or in a chorus or in a theater, which maybe I've done all of those. I can neither confirm nor deny that I've probably sung in every permutation possible. But when you sing with others, you literally are vocally resonating, but then your nervous systems start to sync up
And you
as
start to
well.
feel like you're part of something bigger than yourself.
People think that, right, you hear that all the time, and it sounds like a metaphor, or it sounds like
Yeah.
something just pretty that a nun from Austria might be saying. But what you're saying is that neurologically and physiologically, you're actually synchronizing with those around you.
Absolutely.
Yeah.
We do this when someone puts on a good album and we all know the song and we start dancing to it. You know, I'm a family reunion fan. So like you give me an electric slide and a dance floor, I'm gonna run people over to get out there because of that synchronizing, because of that feeling where it's like, oh, we're all on a vibe together, we're all on this wave together, we're all doing this thing together.
Yep.
And so we usually experience it in those really heightened, powerful moments.
Right.
And so we don't think about that those things happen all the time.
Right. In micro ways, in small ways.
Micro ways, right? So when we step into an office space and the office space is quiet, we become quiet, right? And so even if someone says, hey guys, we want to have fun today and speak up, if the office is quiet, we're going to be quiet.
Yeah. So how does the understanding of the physiology of this impact your understanding of trends? How does what you serve up differ or change because of that?
Because then we have to look at what makes what we call nervous system entrainment, or that idea of locking together. We say, what makes that happen? Not on a cognitive level about the ad or the message that's being said, but what is being presented in front of us physically. What are we seeing, right? So when we talk about, a good trend example was the mob wife aesthetic on TikTok. That was, it was hilarious. These cheetahs, skirts and the big shirts, the giant earrings, the loud makeup, fur jackets. And the question was, like, if we really to break that down scientifically, what you're seeing is every time you see one of these videos, you're seeing the same pattern over and over again.
Right.
And you're also getting rules about what makes that pattern acceptable. Right. So there are certain skirts that make it okay. There are certain blouses that do. There are certain earrings that work. There are certain ones that don't. Right. They've got to be big. They've got to be this. They've got to be that.
There's a playbook, and you got to play the playbook.
Right. None of that is being communicated verbally.
Yeah.
All of that's just being taken in under the hood. And so when we do commercials, when we do ads, this is the first thing that people interact with, isn't what's being said.
Right.
But what's being presented to them in all of the forms that we can present stuff, which starts.
Go ahead.
Which starts first in, the environment around us, the context.
Yeah.
And then after the context, it goes into what's being placed in front of them, whether that be a piece of paper, a song, like, something from Kelly Clarkson, or a video from TikTok on the mob wife aesthetic.
This is great. So you've been in marketing and advertising for a while.
Yeah.
And you have heard over and over, what are your key messages? What's the messaging? Let's get our message track, right? Over and over and over. And what we don't even notice is how verbocentric that is.
It's highly cognitive.
But it's also, it assumes words are what you're transmitting your message through.
Yep.
Right? That and in fact, I just worked on this with a client, that the title or the headline of an ad is what's doing the most work communicating. And a phrase I like nowadays is brand body language, because it's a metaphor that people get. They get it really fucking quick, and instantly you realize, oh, snap. If you come in with the wrong body language and you look like a schlub and you've got crumbs on your clothes and you're wearing socks in your Birkenstocks, and then you want to talk about being sexy, no one's gonna listen to a single word coming out of your mouth hole. And instead they're going to look at your body language. And so what you're saying, and I wonder if this is true, if the neuroscience and the physiological approach just resets your client's perspective, and they become less verbocentric in what they try and do, and realize, oh, our communication starts with that very first frame and all the symbols and signifiers and nonverbal stuff.
Yeah, a lot of times it starts where, we said these things start in small actions, right?
Mm-hmm.
That's what they end up diving into. I'm working on a conference right now, and we did some feedback research, and my role in this conference is cultural design. It's
Nice.
essentially, how do you design the vibe of the conference? Right. And so, we did an interview and a roundtable discussion with some previous participants, some staff members. And, I was asking them, what did you enjoy? What stood out to you? The standard questions that we ask in discovery.
Mm-hmm.
And, one thing they said, no one ever said anything about a talk.
Mm-hmm.
Right. Which, shocker. If you've ever planned a conference, you already know this, that like the last thing that people care about is the talk.
Are the talks. And the last thing, they'll remember one or two key phrases that they wrote down in their phone while they were watching, or they'd snapped a picture of a screen. But instead they come away with what?
They come away with this overall experience built off of community and interacting with people.
The vibe.
And so when we look at how to create a vibe, that starts in the body. So as I'm talking to these guys, they're like, hey, one thing we really appreciated was the buddy system. That if you didn't know someone at the conference, you could volunteer for the buddy system.
Nice.
And you would be matched up with somebody and you would kick it. And I was like, man, that's really cool. And they said, we really wished we had more time with our buddies, at the conference. So I'm talking to the founder yesterday and I'm like, all right, we got to build this thing. And then, we're looking at the context. We're looking at the participants who are coming in, who work in DEI work. So I'm like, they're tired. They're not coming in like marketers.
They're full of energy and excited. They're beat down.
They're beat down. They're not social media managers. Like they're coming in with some stuff. And so it's like, hey, what if you were to cut the amount of talks you do in half? And where you would have had a talk before, you actually introduce something called table time.
Right.
And instead of just a buddy system, why don't you actually assign people to a table for the weekend?
Nice.
And say like 4 or 5 people across sectors, across industries, across experiences. And you're going to go to sessions. You're going to come back from those sessions. You're going to sit down and say, hey, what did you learn? How was that for you?
It's like homeroom in elementary school.
Exactly. And then
and it resets, just like you're saying, it resets your nervous system.
Yeah.
Because you've got people you can rely on, people you're now familiar with, people that safety might be way too big of a word, but people at least you can get into a little bit of a habit with.
Exactly.
I love that.
And so things like that's really small. And I said, hey, look, this isn't going to be a huge expense. This isn't something that's a high programming level, right? Like we can really set this up pretty easily based off of all the other stuff. We just need a place with tables and some other things.
Yeah.
And she's like, oh my God, like, yeah, we can totally do that. And then the second thing I said is, well, the next thing is that you need to include more activations that create joy. Right. I was like, no one cares about the size of the booth or the size of the graphics. I was like, there's an old story of Jamie Foxx, throwing a house party. And he promised one of his friends who's like some big celebrity to do was like, I don't know if we can throw a party this like, he was like, dude, you give me $50, I will throw the best party you've ever seen.
Right.
And he went and got like 6 buckets of fried chicken, a couple of drinks, and like hooked up a stereo system. And the house was packed.
Yeah.
And so I told her, I was like, look, you can do that. You can do a family reunion.
Yeah.
And have a local group come and cater it or have some food and just play music and let people do what we know people do naturally because of our nervous systems.
Yeah, that's right. So, and it throws out a lot of the corporate playbook, which is oblivious to our nervous systems.
Exactly.
And says we need to pack in knowledge. We need to pack in facts. We need not just back-to-back talks, we need multiple tracks of talks. So not only do you have to sit through a bunch of talks and you can't talk to people about it, you have to decide which talk to go to and run between talks to make sure you're not feeling left out from the good talk and you're stuck in the bad talk.
Right.
And that jacks your nervous system.
The amount of stress.
It's the opposite. Oh my God. We have so much more we can talk about.
Yeah.
So what we'll do is we'll come back together and we'll do that on another episode. But I love how much neuroscience and the understanding of our nervous systems has impacted your understanding of network effects, of communication and tracking trends, and also helping companies understand how to respond and react and how to communicate and how you're communicating nervous system to nervous system. That really changes how a company would approach their communication. their marketing
Absolutely.
efforts. And it's not just messaging.
This changes how they approach literally everything, because
Yeah,
now
great.
in a Web 2 world, and I'll leave it with this, is that
Mhm.
what we do as an intelligence company is we find the metrics that correspond to nervous system events,
Wow.
and we
That's
track
great.
those at scale. And so the data is already there. We've been moving and interacting and
Right.
living in this world and living nervous system first since the day we were born.
Wow. Yeah,
And,
of course, because
right?
we didn't have the words back then. We couldn't say oligarchy
Exactly. And
coming out of the
so,
womb.
but we said that's not fair.
How do people find you?
People want to find me, the best place to connect with me is on LinkedIn. You can find me at Evante Daniels on LinkedIn. You can also
Okay.
connect with me on Instagram at Hey Evante. It's Evante. I know it sounds
Okay.
like there should be another A in there, but
Is
it's
that
me.
like, hey, Hay?
Absolutely. No, it's HEY, because I had
Okay.
to, I want to make it easy on people.
Hey,
But that's how you
Evante.
say it. That's how
Oh,
you
yeah,
say
yeah, yeah. I know.
it.
And you and I will talk girl songs and girl power pop later. I
Absolutely.
took my kid to Katy Perry's Prism tour, not the opposite.
Wow.
Well, I know
I
all the
get it.
lyrics.
I get it. I get
But
it. I respect it.
that's again a conversation for another time. You are the best. I'm so excited we get to talk more.
Ethan, I'm glad we got to make this happen.
Evante, have a great day.
You too.
Bye. That's it for this episode. If anything stuck with you from today's show, good. That's the point. Be simple, be sticky, and stay classy, San Diego. If today's conversation made you rethink something about your business, consider calling us to get more formal help for your brand or your team. I run workshops and strategy sessions to turn science into success. Cliche, that's cheesy. Learn more at appliedbrandscience.com.